In this lecture, we are going to understand the basics of how processes are abstracted in x86. So what is a process? A process is a living, running program, and the OS is responsible for concurrently running multiple processes on one or more CPU cores that are there on your hardware CPU. Right? The OS is responsible for creating processes, terminating processes, context switching across processes, handling events, requests like system calls from processes and so on. Right? So the job of the OS is broadly to manage all the active processes in the system. So the OS needs a data structure to keep track of all the information related to the process. And that is called the PCB, or a process control block. And this PCB has different names in different operating systems. It's called the struct proc in x86. It's also called the task struct in Linux, right? So x86 has multiple PCBs for different active processes. And this is a very important data structure for the operating system. And all of these struct procs of different processes, P1, P2, and so on, are all maintained in the kernel memory. So the operating system has a portion of RAM where the operating system code and data and everything is stored. We are going to learn more about this later. And within this portion of the OS memory, there is a data structure that has the list of all the struct procs of all the processes in the system. So please refer back to the previous lecture that describes what a PCB is to get a complete picture of it. In this lecture, we are only going to cover the x86 part of what the PCB contains. So this is the snippet of code from x86. So this is from the PDF formatted source code of x86. Please go to the web page of the series of lectures to have a link to this PDF. So this is the PCB structure, the struct proc structure of x86, right? So these are the line numbers that will help you locate this piece of code when you look at the actual source code. Okay, so first thing is, before looking at struct proc, these are the process states. A process can exist in multiple states, right? A PCB can be in multiple states. It can be an unused PCB. It can be an embryo, that is a process just being created. It can be a sleeping or blocked process. It can be a runnable or ready process that is ready to run but is not yet running on the CPU. Then finally, one process on a CPU core will be in the running state, that which is currently executing on the CPU. And a terminated process will be in the zombie state. Okay, so what are all the fields that the struct proc has? Of course, one field is the state, which is one of these values, right? The PCB has information about what state the process is in currently. And it has information like the size of the process. It has something called the page table and kernel stack. We'll come to that later. It has a pointer to the parent process. It has a process ID. Every process has a unique identifier in the system. And there's something called a trap frame, context structure. All of these we'll study later on as part of the course. Then there's also a process name. There's a pointer to the current directory where the process is running, right? A few other fields we are going to see in this lecture, and the other things you will study as you keep exploring x86 code in subsequent lectures. So first, let us see what is the kernel stack, right? This was a piece of line of code in the struct proc in the previous slide. So what is a kernel stack? Recall that when you make function calls, you use a stack. So when user code makes function calls, temporary state like local variables and arguments, all of that is stored on the user stack, right? The CPU context is stored on the user stack. But when the operating system code is running, the OS does not use the user stack because it does not trust the user stack. Therefore, a separate area of memory per process is reserved. And this area of memory is called the kernel stack. So whenever a process is executing OS code, say for a system call or something, whenever a user program wants some OS services, it jumps to the OS code to run OS code as part of a system call. Whenever such things happen and whenever you need a stack, you need to store CPU context or do various such things, you will not use the user stack. Instead, there is a separate area of memory called the kernel stack for every process. And this is linked from the struct proc from the PCB of a process. There is a link to this kernel stack, right? And every process has its own kernel stack that the OS uses when it is running code on behalf of a particular process. Okay. The next interesting piece of thing in the struct proc was the list of open files. So every process has certain files open and it maintains pointers to these open files. So every process has an array which has multiple entries, each of which is a pointer to a struct file, right? Each of which is a pointer to a struct file. This is an array with pointers to the file structure. So what is this file structure? We're going to study later when we study file systems. For now, it is enough to know that every process maintains an array of pointers to the files that it has open. So the first three files that every process has open by default are the standard input, standard output, standard error, right? So three of these entries are by default always in use. And later on, when a process, your program opens more files, more of these entries will get used. And whenever you open a file, what you are returned is basically open system call returns a file descriptor, which is basically an index into this array. It tells you, okay, the entry number 5 is free, go ahead and use it. And this index is returned. It is called the file descriptor, and all subsequent operations you want to do on a file, like read or write, will refer to this file descriptor or will refer to this index. So this number is returned and the open system call. Then later on, when you say read file number 5, then the OS knows what to do with it, because from this it has a pointer to the structure of the file and it can retrieve information about a file using this pointer. Okay, so this is called the file descriptor array, and every file that is opened by a process, a pointer to that file is maintained in this array. Then another important data structure is the page table. So as we've seen, right, every process has a memory image, and which has things like code and heap and stack and everything. And this memory image, all of these instructions and variables are assigned virtual addresses starting from 0. But the actual location in memory can be very different. And this mapping from what is the virtual address that the process sees, that the CPU sees, and what is the actual location in memory, this mapping is maintained by the page table. So once again, all of these things, the kernel stack, the file descriptor array, the page table, all of this we're going to see in more detail in subsequent lectures. This is just to introduce the concepts to them. These are all examples of state of a process that must be maintained by the OS, and all of these are put together in one data structure called the struct proc of a process. So now there are multiple such processes and there are multiple such struct procs, and all of these are maintained in an array called the P table in x86. So P table is it consists of multiple things. Of course, there is a lock that is protecting this P table. What is a lock? We're going to study about it later. There is a lock, and there are multiple struct procs in an array, right? So all the processes that are active or not active, whatever, there are multiple entries in this struct proc. There are n proc number of entries, and this table, this fixed size array, has information about all the processes in x86. Of course, because x86 is a simple OS, it has a fixed size array. Real operating systems maintain this as a dynamic sized data structure. And there is the OS code called a CPU scheduler, whose job is to run over all the processes in this P table, find something that is ready to run, and set it to run on the CPU. Right? So this is where all the OS execution starts. Right? Once the OS boots up, it enters into the scheduler loop. There is a for loop. You go over all the entries in the P table. You find a process that is ready to run. If it is not runnable, of course, you skip. But if a process is ready to run, then you will switch to that process. You will set that process state to running, and you will switch to that process. And then that process runs for some time. and then it comes back to the scheduler, and then the scheduler will pick another process. It will basically iterate over this P table array, right? This is the main code that the operating system runs. Okay, so of course there are a lot of intricacies here. I've not explained all the lines. This is how in general we will study x86 code. We will first understand a few simple concepts first, and we will keep on revisiting the scheduler code multiple times throughout these lectures, where we understand more and more concepts progressively. For now, it is enough to understand that the scheduler basically loops over all the processes in the P table, finds a runnable process and sets it to the running state and switches to it, right? What does all of this mean? What does switching and all of that mean? We will come to it in a later lecture. Now, once the process is running, suppose the process has executed some instructions and it needs to, make a blocking operation. It needs to go to the disk or something. In which case, here is the function that the program will invoke. It will call sleep. So this function will basically set its state to sleeping, and it will call back to the scheduler again saying, I have to sleep. I'm waiting for some disk operation. So the process will set its state to sleeping, go back to the scheduler, right? That is one example of a process state transition. A process that needs to make a blocking operation will set its state to sleeping and go back to the scheduler. And another example in which a process can invoke the scheduler is, suppose the process has run for a long time and it says, okay, I've had my share of the CPU. Now I will stop running. In that case, the process will set its state to runnable or ready. It is still ready to run, but it just doesn't want to run anymore, right? In which case, from running, it will go to runnable and it will invoke the scheduler again. Now you're back to the scheduler. The scheduler can pick some other process. Right? This is broadly how the operating system runs. It sets a process to run. The process does certain things. After some time, for whatever reason, it will come back to the scheduler. The scheduler will find some other process to run. It will run for some time, come back to the scheduler, and so on. Right? So this is the story. The story goes on as long as your system is up and running. So in this lecture, we've seen the basics of the PCB structure of x86, which is also called the struct proc. We have seen how x86 maintains all the list of processes in a fixed size array called the P table. And we've seen the scheduler code, where the scheduler loops over this P table, finds process to run. And we've also seen some examples of state transitions of processes. A process that is running might decide to sleep and go back to the scheduler. A process might just decide it has run for enough time, make itself go back to the ready state again and give up the CPU. We've seen all of these examples. So one thing that I'd like to emphasize is you are not meant to understand all the code that I've shown on the previous few slides. It's enough to understand just the basic concepts now. Whatever have been lines of code have been highlighted, it's enough to understand that. We will keep revisiting this code again multiple times as we understand more and more concepts in the future lectures.